Welcome everyone to today's PermaPuheet. I am Nick. Our teacher today is Kathy Otto. Some of you already know her from her facilitating the digital permaculture talk some weeks ago. So you already know Kathy is a facilitator, but she's also a teacher and she's into social permaculture. So today she will talk about permaculture tools to design invisible landscapes. So she will introduce us to some tools, methods, and processes. Cassie, the stage is yours.
Oh, and yes. Reflections and a lot of other stuff. Let's see where we get. Okay. Before I start, I just wanted to hear if some of you feel like talking or telling in the chat what you know about social permaculture. If you have no idea at all, if you have some idea, if you know some work, like I guess a lot of you or some of you know Luby's work, just to give me an idea who I'm talking to. Icebreaker, please. Nobody wants to talk? Okay, there is somebody with, I've read Luby's book and have some understanding in the chat. Anybody else who knows something, nothing? New to permaculture totally, so nothing, so everything in between. Okay, thank you for this. If there's something else coming, I will just keep the chat open. If somebody takes a little more time to read, and I will start screen sharing. That's the wrong button. So we have the full title, and we will get into this in a bit, is me and technology. Now you, yeah? Somebody wants to talk? No, somebody is not muted. So you see now when I change the screen, don't you? Yes, good. So I have this, and I will get into this. I use it using permaculture tools to design inner and invisible landscapes. So there will be several moments where we'll ask you to think and comment some things. But if you're not too into talking, yes, familiar with the concept, and this is good. And there's a difference between inner and invisible landscapes. It's not the same. So we'll get to this soon, but I will start talking a little bit about myself first. So you know, let's go here. So you know whom you're talking to or who's talking to you. And I come from Germany originally. Now I live in Spain, and I've been a lifelong activist from like 14 years on. So I have, yeah, it's sometimes easier to say where I haven't been than where I've been. I have then studied social sciences and literature and culture and media sciences. So I got into the cultural and social issues, has always been there. Have then had a lot of practice and training in a social theater method really specific to Spain, which is called the theater of listening, which is very inspired in the theater of the oppressed, but goes more into structural violence than the theater of the oppressed. Have also been in nonviolence as an activist movement, so nonviolent action, nonviolent thinking, philosophy, for about 10 years before I got into permaculture. And did after a couple of decades of all of these activities, and after having seen and lived a lot of failure, one of the really marking experiences for me was that I got down and sat down, everything has failed, everything went wrong, I did an activism, so what did we do wrong? And I wrote like a year and a half about that issue and really reflected deeply, created some structures there already, and I will go into this later to some of the structures. And then I got into permaculture. So permaculture is like the last layer of a lot of very long route for me. And with my background and having a lot of people who are doing land-based permaculture, I said, okay, I will focus on the social parts. So at this moment, I'm doing my diploma here in Spain with the ACAPI, it's called, with the Spanish Academy, for the diploma. And one of my designs is what I'm calling the integrated design framework. And this is when I started doing permaculture. I had already some methods and tools from the social sciences times, from nonviolence. I got some else, from some coaching experience. I got some else, and I had all these toolboxes, and I needed to integrate them into something cohesive. So I would know what to use when and how to place it. And I've been working on this design like for half a year, and it's nearly done. I will hand it in a couple of weeks. So part of the work, what I'm going to present, is the tools I have designed for this framework. And during the last year, I have also done several trainings in the year related to this. I did like 3-4 trainings with Luby last year, who made the design web. And now I'm doing a training on designing regenerative organizations with a thing that's called In Rhythm, which is from the landscape of regenerative economies, if this sounds to some of you. Okay, so just a couple of ideas where I'm talking from, which is a place of pieces of my own work and a lot of layers of training I've just putting together in one cohesive one cohesive framework. So then let's think about this. I talked about this before. We're talking about inner and invisible landscapes. So what is a landscape? Because a landscape, when we talk about land-based, it's very obvious what is a landscape. Yes, it's like all these pictures are landscapes. What is that? What is really a landscape? A desert, and it's something, if you look about it, it's a section of the Earth's surface that can be seen from a single spot, or it is uniform. A forest, even if I can't see it all, it's one landscape. So when we talk about other landscapes in an abstract way, then it is a limited space. It can be in time, in people, but it does have a limit, which has its own shape, and it has heights and depths. It has corners, it has curves. There are stable elements in there. There are elements that's like mountains or people or places or things that are always there, elements that don't change, and elements that are in motion. So that it's just, yes, like an ecosystem, a landscape, something, yes. And the important piece is when we look at the visible landscapes, at the material landscapes, they have a form. You can take a photo of them and you can map them. The invisible landscapes, they don't have a material form, but you can observe them and you also can map them. And often it is very, very, very important to map them and to keep them in mind when doing any kind of design. So here's this thing, when we talk about that, is this thing, and then we think we're talking about invisible landscapes. So it's social landscapes, isn't it? No, it's not. We will see there are a lot of examples in nature also where there are invisible landscapes. For example, later a map of energy flow or of the food chain, which is a natural landscape, but it is invisible. So it's not always just being in an invisible landscape. So landscape you can't take a photo of doesn't mean that it's a social landscape. Social is when it's in human relationships. Yes, and then there's this other term, which is the inner landscape. When we talk about inner landscapes, there's an inside and an outside. What is the inside? Often when we talk about inner landscapes, we talk about what is within a person. So my inner landscape is my world within, my feelings, my emotions, my ideas, but this is within me. When we talk about an organization, the inner landscape is within the organization with those people who have, again, an inner landscape. And then we have outside other landscapes, which is the external landscape of the organization. So it is a social landscape or not, but it is always within and without. And this is also within a boundary. We decide what boundary we're working on at this moment. So we have here, it's like this Russian dolls. And then just to get some examples of maps, just very fast to see what kind of landscapes we're talking about. I talked before it about the food chain. So here we have a map of a food chain, and yeah, that's a landscape. It can be mapped. Yes, here we have a network of different people within a group, how friendships work, and who's more central to the group, who's more on the periphery, and even maybe just connected to one or two people. We have organizational structures, which can be very different. This is a traditional structure. This would be the map of a sociocratic structure. We can map networks. Yeah, again, the social landscape. We can map time, like the year or the week or the day. These are all maps. Even we do it all the time, yes? There are mind maps of ideas. This one is in German. And then, for example, when we get into permaculture, there's a zone map. So this is a map of my PDC design, both. And this is the zoning, not of my home, but how I move on the island. And this is really strange. The zone 1 is really tiny there where we live, which is around here. Yeah, and then we have like a zone 2, which were the projects I was collaborating with at the time. And the zones 3 are the zones around. And there's always the Y, which also would be zone 2. But sometimes we also can make this, and this is the zones are also an invisible landscape. And we can map in zones anything. The map on the right hand, for example, is a map of the zones of our association and other associations we collaborate with or know about. So in the zone 1 are the one we are working with all the time. In the 2 are regular collaborations, and zone 5 are people we heard of, we know exist, but we never talk to them. And apart from it, when we just look at the color coding, this is the permaculture flower color coding. So this maps at the same time the zones and the different sectors the activity the organization does. So we're mapping 2 pieces at the same time. So we can map a lot of things, and we can work, and it's really, really a thing that just when doing designs and when working with invisible landscapes, just mapping them, visualizing them is really, really helpful. Just by mapping, we understand the information in a different way. It's like this left and right side of the brain, and we really just don't know which side is which, you know? I don't know now which side is which, but it is like when we do it with language, then we use one side, and when we do it with map, we do it with the other side. So we really reflect on the information a different way, and we usually always get something out of it. And it's really, really helpful. So mapping all these kind of things can be very, very interesting. So just some pitfalls and reflections about the work. And now we get into the social systems, yes? So the first thing is, why is it so important to design the social aspects, the invisible, the inner aspects of a permaculture design or of any design, basically? Because if we don't do it, the design will fail. Point. It's simple. It's like this. I don't know. I've heard like a lot of places, and it's really just got into my really deeply ingrained now that most of the permaculture designs don't fail because the land part is not done well, but because the implementation and the maintenance is not adapted to the people in that team. And then they don't keep it up, and the design isn't kept, it isn't working. So the social aspect is really, really important. Groups fail all the time. Yes, this is one of my huge life experiences as an activist for now, nearly 30 years, is that most groups fail because of inner reasons. It's not the outside pressure, it's the inside pressure that makes them fail. So it's really, really important. And another part when we talk, but I'm not doing social permaculture. I want to do land-based permaculture, or I'm just doing social permaculture. Is this really possible? I don't really believe it. Even if you do land-based permaculture, unless you say, okay, I'm doing a forest where nobody will eat, where nobody will live, and it's just going to be a self-regulated ecosystem. Okay, great. But why do you design it? Nature designed this. If you want to design it, you do it for a social purpose. So there's always a social layer to it, to any land-based design. And if you have to really keep the social layer in mind, it's really different if you do a design for if you do a design for somebody who's going to live at a place and then have a garden where they want to, yes, get the food out of, and then something else is somebody who wants to be a professional agriculture. Yes, it's going to have to be a very different design. It's going to have to be a very different design with somebody who's a vegan and doesn't want any imprisoned animals on their farm, or somebody who does love the animals, and more animals the better. So the social aspects are really important. Later I'm going to get into other parts of this, but just keep it in mind. Yes, we really need it. And you can't do a land-based. Basically, there are really very few examples where land-based design doesn't have a social aspect. And observing this aspect, mapping this aspect, analyzing this aspect is really fundamental, I believe. And on the other hand, there are some designs which are mainly social, which have very little land-based pieces. But if we look at even something like this, which is the PermaPuheet series, yeah, it's done in winter from Finland for a reason, because in winter people have time to sit in front of the computer. If they do it in summer, it will be probably a lot of less participants, less interest. Yes, everybody's somewhere else. So even in these digital designs, the land component, the time component, the natural aspects do influence. So it's always there, even if we focus more on one piece than on the other. Then we get here to, we're going to stay here for a while. This is an important piece, which is typical mistakes when we do projects. This is a map which came out of of my work when I did the deep evaluation, and where I saw where are the main problems. Usually when people do projects, it's a lot around, my experience is a lot around associations, it's a lot around collectives, but it can be in different ways translated to any level, basically. So I have like 3 groups there. We have the group of structure, which is the external visible part of the organization. We have the dialogue piece, where people talk and take decisions, and we have the individual layer, which is the people who are part of these organizations and who form this organization. So when we go to the individual layer of the people who form part of an organization or a project, we have 3 pieces here, which is one is the capacities. So what do they know how to do? Do you know how to plant? Do you have the capacity to plan a garden, or is it the first time you do it? It's going to be very different. Me, I'm self-employed. I always have projects, associations. You need a lot of capacities to do it. Yes, from legal, from accounting, from handling people, talking to people, planning the year, everything. Yes, there's so many layers to it. So when you start a project and you're not prepared to this, then you won't be able to do it. It's going to be too big for you. You can't say, okay, I want to do a professional garden and sell veggies and have never cultivated veggies. No, you don't have the capacity yet. You can train to obtain the capacity, yes, but you don't have it at this moment. And to be very honest about this is important. I've seen basically 2 patterns there with the people. One is people who just say, yeah, I can do everything, this is easy, then they go out and start doing it and say, oh no, it's difficult, it can't be done, it's too difficult. Or people who say, oh no, I just know so little and I don't know how to do it, and it's just totally out of my capacity. And then you see them doing and they know loads, but they have so little self-esteem that they don't believe in themselves. I've seen both, and often we really oscillate between totally overestimating our capacities and then underestimating and overestimating, and really getting to this point, which is a lot of self-observation and also self-observation of the group, where we really estimate our capacities realistically, is very important. And I've seen a lot of groups fail because of this. Another thing is mentality. The mentality is the way we think, the ideas we have about life. And Yeah, I have not been, I'm not sure if you're all in Finland or how many of you, I don't know Finnish society too well. I know it from Spanish society and from German, and of mentality is just, yeah, very formed by the recent society, which is where it's individualistic, it's paternalistic, and it's a consumer society. It seems like, oh no, we're alternative people. We are not, but we grew up in it, and it's formed our mentality. Individualistic, I do this alone. I'm the big hero. I can do it, and we do it all the time. So yeah. So where the heck? Yes, and then it's too big for us alone because it's projects that are not made, they're not made to be alone, but I want it, and it's all about me, me, me. We all have this a bit in, but this is the easiest part to see usually. The paternalistic society is what I mean with this is I've seen it here in Spain. It's in Germany less than in Spain, but here in Spain it's from on one side from the parents who do everything for their children. Yes, I really, really like Latin, yes, Spanish parenthood, another discussion topic, and the state who gives a lot of laws and projects and helps and things. So people from the very beginning of their life are used to, when I do something, when I want something, then they're, yes, and pappy state or mommy or somebody does it for me and helps me with it. And I have a problem, they just start crying and somebody solves it for it. When you handle a project, when you have a farm, when you do anything in association, nobody is going to save you. You have to solve it. And a lot of people are not prepared for that. They don't have the mentality for it. And the other part, which is the consumer society, it's simply we're not so consumerist. It's like with anything, we don't use the wallet. It's here in the child's bedroom. This is a small toy. I'm not sure if you see it. This toy, how much does it cost? 50 cents, a euro maybe. But if we, or even it may have even a present, I don't know. But if you think on the energy that is put in this, from the mining or resourcing of the minerals and whatever goes into this, to the fabricating of the plastic, to the paint, to the transport, to the work, this is a lot of work in such a small thing. We don't have in our society a real measure for the energy that goes into it. Things. We don't see the process. We're not used to processes. There are people who have done farming, who have done other things. They know this, but it's different rhythm. You say, okay, I plant the tree now and I have harvest in 4 years. Yes? What? 4 years waiting and I have to water the tree every day? It's too much work. No, it's not. It's like this. This is really doing it. And we're so used to buying solutions that we don't have this. So we really have to change our mentality to collaborative, to self-responsible, which is very permaculture, and to really appreciating the way and the value of things. Yes. So this is a very very important thing when we do projects, that a lot of people don't have the mentality. And if they don't change the mentality, they will say, yeah, I tried it out and then it didn't work. It's impossible. So a huge issue, and a lot of people who later boycott the work because they don't have the right mentality to do the work. And then there's the submerged. I will not go so deeply into this now, but it's also very important. The submerged piece is anything that is unconscious. Yes, we have fears, we have traumas, we have insecurities, we have a lot of things that are going to pop up. Yes, if I have a tendency to depression and make a work plan for like do everything all the week, all year long, okay, with some holidays and pauses, but this, and then I have a depressive period, I won't fulfill it. If I have a problem handling money and I do a work plan with a very strict budget, I'm not able to handle it. Yeah. So the submerged, the invisible, the things we don't want to see about us, they're all going to manifest. It doesn't matter if it's a collective project or a personal project. They're going to manifest. They're going to be there. So in the individual level, there are a lot of problems, a lot of things we have to develop. We have to do maturing. We have to mature as people, as persons, as human beings, if we want to do projects collectively or individually. And people who haven't done this maturing, they are not ready to do it. And this is so but it's like this. And when they do it, then they say we have tried and it didn't work. Then on the other hand are the structures we create. And there are different kinds of structures. There's a lot of things that I saw a lot is relationships. When we do collectives or when we do work, what do we create with the relationships? Are the relationships improving or deteriorating? If the relationships are deteriorating, you did something wrong. It's a symptom of doing the work wrong. Yes. And I've seen this a lot within the team or to the outside. A lot of alternative projects, they might even get along very well amongst them. This is called like a heater group, because you get together because you want the human heat, and everybody outside is your enemy. And you have bad relationships to outside. If we talk about transformation, about creating a new world, about justice, we have to have good relationships with our neighbors. We have to be examples. We can't deteriorate with our relationships with our neighbors. So if the relationships deteriorate, is one of the symptoms we are doing something wrong. On the action level, which is planning, short-term, long-term, anything, when you don't do the dialogue process and everything right, then when there's no design, which is one of the problems often in associations and projects, and there's no good design, then the action is just random. Instead of advancing, we do this. There's a lot of activity, but we do and undo and do and undo all the time, and we don't go anywhere always. Or we have a little nice ritual like this in the 1st of May, and then the Women's Day, and yes, on Christmas we all protest against consumerism, and we do it, but we always do it for ourselves. It's just like a tribal ritual of self-affirmation. Yeah, but it's not transformative action. We're not building something. We're not advancing towards a point. I've seen this so many times. Yes. And then is roles and processes, is which roles are built, who has them, do we have the right people in them? And we have a lot of time when there's no good relationship, when there's no clear action, and just anybody, the people who take the roles are the ones who want them, and they're not always the best qualified. On one hand, or on the other hand, we give it to people like, we want you to do it. So we ask you and you say yes because you don't know how to say no, but you don't really want to do it. And then you don't do the job. So we have a lot of problems on this level. We have a lot of lack of maturity on this level. And then there's a dialogue level, which is where the two meet. It's like a cycle, like going, yes. So on the dialogue level, there's first is the observations, which when we go to most of the group processes, it's just never done. I say, yeah, observation. What's the problem with observation? And the people look at me, what is it? They don't know how to do it. I think in permaculture, you have all some knowledge of permaculture. You know what is about observation. Observation is important, is fundamental for any design, and we need it. Okay? And we can only design if we have observed well. And if we're talking about a group process, there's another piece in observation, is that to make the observation common knowledge. If I have an observation and you don't have the same observation, we can't understand each other. So it's a really fundamental piece doing the observation part well. What is about dialogue? Dialogue needs to be structured. If we have an unstructured, what we have a lot is like, also with myself or with other, if we are in a group, if we have like this typical, we're sitting in the circle and talking and just hope that we get to the right decision, that is not a really forthcoming dialogue. There are a lot of techniques in facilitation, in structuring, art of hosting, what else? I will name them later. We need it. If not, we're just going to have problems. Yes. And then there's this last piece I will get into is decision making. I'll get into this later again. We take decisions. How do we take decisions? And the way I usually handle it is different than from most people, because I say there are 4 types of decisions: impositions, compromises, consentimiento, consenting, and agreement. Imposition is when somebody's criteria is set above somebody else. This includes voting and the imposition of the majority over the minority. And this also includes decisions taken without proper dialogue, where who's talking best gets the yes because he's silencing everybody else, or she. Compromise is when, and this is a huge problem for most of the groups, because this brings resentment. This brings that not everybody identifies with the decision. This is not a problem in a hierarchical structure, but if we want to create a collective structure, important decisions taken by impositions really create problems because not everybody identifies with them. The compromise is a little bit of mine, a little bit of yours. Governments are very good in this. And the problem with compromise is that we do take care of everybody's emotion, but we don't take care of everybody, of the coherence of the strategy. So we get to totally random actions, and often even they have no sense concerning the outside observations. So then often are actions where you say, yeah, I have to do it because it's a plan, but the plan doesn't make sense. Consenting, which is used in sociocracy, is when you have the right to say no, and you have the right to say, I don't agree with it, but I can live with it. I consent this. So we have a conscious disagreement and conscious saying yes and no. And everybody has a veto right. And agreement is when really everybody says yes. And in a cared for dialogue with good observation, with good analysis, with good balance, the important decisions, the fundamental decisions should be taken in agreement if we want to take care of having a cohesive logical strategy and taking care of everybody's motivation and identification with the organization. If not, we lose the people, which is what happens all the time in associations. Associations don't work because the decision making is usually in position, or it's compromises and stuff, or it's just a lot of typical mistakes. Okay, enough on that. Let's go on. The next pieces are a little shorter. So we have, when we talk about designing landscapes, we have to keep some things in mind when we talk about social designs. The first one is a very different perspective when we do physical landscapes to social landscapes, because in the physical landscapes, we are mostly outside from them. We have an observer perspective. But when we're in a social landscape, we are inside. We're deciding for something for ourselves or for other people, but it's always with human. We're looking from up. It's a different perspective. If I look at the forest from the outside and can see the forest, or if I'm a little ant in the forest looking up. So there's a lot of things we cannot predict or see in the same way as we can when we do land-based designs. This makes a huge difference when we work with social landscapes and social designs, because we have a different perspective. And there's a lot of things we can't plan for in the same way we can plan for when we have the outside perspective. So there is this important word, Luby uses it a lot, which is emergence. What is emergence? Emergence is when things are more than the sum of its parts. When 2 + 2 is 4. What? Yes. It's like, okay, when it may even be more. Emergence happens when, on the physical level, when you put two things together and something new emerges out of it. Like you have a bee and a flower, and then you have honey. Or you have flour and water and eggs and yeast and stuff, and then you have bread or a cake. Yes? And this is something new emerges because you put the right ingredients together. And as I said before, when we have an outside perspective, like we have in chemics and physics, then we can create very planned conditions for emergence. And we know when we do land work that we do the bancalos, we do the vegetable garden, and if we cover the soil and we take care for the microorganisms and we put enough water in, and they put the organic matter in, and the plants will be healthy. So good plant life emerges from a good soil. This is what we know by now. But when it's with life and with people, first we have this different perspective, and then we don't know a lot of things. So this is very, thank you for this. I will talk about her later a bit more. Okay. So when we talk about emergence, we have to think about it when we talk about social processes. The emergence is a result of, we put together several components and we do it in the right placing and process and the right proportions. If we put if we take making a cake and we take the flour, put it into the oven, put the heat in, and then the eggs and the water, we won't get bread. It needs a certain process and it needs a certain order for things to emerge. And when results emerge in social processes, it's a result of how we have placed the components, what components are there, what components are lacking or should not be there, and what process we are using. And certain results are emerging. So we can try to work with this, or we can take the emergence of those results and say we have to change the placing of the components in the process we are working on, and then the results will change. And it is like this when things emerge in this, it often surprises us, and the emergence can be something desired or not. The emergence when we have a bad meeting structure is a lot of decisions that are not taken, or decisions that are taken with resentment or lack of clarity, and this is not a desired outcome. Or it can be decided, can be, wow, we got far more out of it than I planned. Last year I did the design work course in Spanish. We organized when I started it for myself, then I went to the courses with Ruby, and it was like, oh, there are people who know about this, so we're going to do it together. And then the group course emerged. I didn't plan it, and it was it was far better than anything I could have done by myself. So the desire can be, the emerging result can be desired or not, but it is surprising because we're looking from this end perspective at it, yes? And we can welcome it or not. We can say, oh, it's great, it is there, you're telling me something, even if it's a not desired outcome. We can say, okay, this tells me something is wrong in the system. So what do I need to change in the system to get another result? And it works. This is about social design. When you do the design, when you have a design, you can change things. And then there's another thing, which as I told you before, I was in nonviolence for a long time, and there's also a piece of violence here. Our society is very violent all the time. So are we being violent? And what is violence here? Violence is, when you go deep into nonviolence and go there, it is any way we have of forcing an outcome, an action, a process, including coercion. Yes, everything. When we talk with plants, like we can say the forcing the plant or the animal to grow faster is being violent. It's, yeah, I get you to do what I want you to do, but you don't want to do it. You getting angry. It's being violent because I have coerced you. And when you do it, when you use coercion in a decision-making process in something, yes, I push my opinion through because this is what I want and I'm happy if it, yes, but other people are not happy. And the collateral damage of getting what you want, but then having other people with resentment and with conflict and with tension points may be so damaging to the organization that maybe it's not worth it. Yes, because you do more collateral. Usually when you use violence, following Gandhi, is you do more collateral damage than the real results is helpful. So one of the interesting points is really trying to get into processes, decision-making, dialogue processes, where we don't push anybody to do something they're not ready to do. How do we do this? It's a really huge change off, because we do this all the time. Yeah, we want to do this. I want to do this. So I want the group to do it. So we do it all together because everybody has to agree on it. Maybe not. Maybe it's something, this is something you want to do. You are in your right to do it. Do it. You want to do it with them. Just the two of you do it together. Any objections that the two of them do it? No. So you do it. We're happy not doing it. Much better than having to try to force that everybody does it. And then having a lot of coercion and stuff. It's really about creating good dialogue structures all the time with myself, with others, observing and doing it. So just a little reflection. There are a couple of more reflections coming. So one, these are taken from the design. We're looking at what I wanted to say today. Some of the anchor points. Let me show you the design work for those who don't know it. Some of the anchor points spoke to me because I feel they are really, really interesting. So one of the first anchor points is, what do we appreciate? Do we appreciate people, plants, animals? What is our culture like? Is it a culture of appreciation, of saying thank you or not? And what are the effects? What are the effects if we don't value what we have? So just the design web is one of the really beautiful points, is that it brings appreciation it always reminds you just to think about it for a bit and to really start building a culture where you say thank you all the time, where you, to the plants, to the people, to the air, to yourself. Yes, I ended up with one of the designs thanking my own defense mechanisms, which were not useful anymore. But by thanking them, I could let them go easier. So it really changes a lot of cultural conditioning. Other is integration, which is another anchor point, which is really interesting. And we always in permaculture, we look at integration, but what does integration mean? Which does being open mean? Does it mean everybody is welcome? Everybody can be in here? No, that's not healthy. It's not everything. If you talk about a meal, integrating, if you talk about the diet, yes, most of foods are healthy, most foods are good to have a diet. It's important to integrate in your diet a variety of foods. But if you put all the foods in at the same time in the same pot and boil them all together, nobody's going to eat the soup. But this is what we do most of the time when we're thinking about social components. If we want the food, if we want something really tasty and healthy and nourishing, we have to separate the salad from the soup, from the main dish, from the dessert, from what I eat today, from what I eat. We integrate. Everybody has a place, but not each place is the same. Some are central, some are peripheral, some are in this ecosystem, some are in the other, and that's good. So when we do social design, we have to ask ourselves all the time, what components do we place? And in social systems, which people fit in and which don't. If we want to do a farm and have 4 people who love farming, but nobody who loves accounting, we have a problem. We need somebody who loves farming, somebody who loves animals, somebody who loves accounting and doing the construction work. And then we have a complete team. And this can integrate. 4 farmers can't integrate in one team. You understand what I mean? It's really important just to think about this. So another reflection, which is very important from the design work, is momentum. So what moves us. And if we want a design to work, we have to fulfill our needs. Yes, and we talk here about material, emotional need. It's really interesting to observe that people, when it's about their job, even if they hate their job, they're much more serious than they usually in voluntary work. Why? Because it fulfills a need. They need the job to eat. And emotionally, it's really, really something primary in us ourselves, that we just put this first. Work comes first because this is what gives us to which feeds me. And if I don't have work, I can't eat. Yeah, or I have no sense in life. So material needs, emotional needs. Why do you go there? What is the need you fulfill with this? We have a need, and this is why do people do voluntary work? Because they have the need to feel like good people. So it gives them a need. This is why they move. So if you want something to work, you have to work with the needs. A really good thinking about the needs is done in nonviolent communication. They have a really interesting list on this, or especially on the emotional needs of safety, of everything. And everything we do responds to a need. If I pass 3 or 4 hours a day on Facebook or WhatsApp or on watching stupid things on television, what is my need? Resting, disconnecting, having white noise so my head doesn't spin and I'm lost in my head all the time because my head needs to rest. Yes, and this is something else where we get to pause, which is another anchor point, and gives really important ideas for social designs. What is our rhythm and pulse? Because pause is not just I sit down and pause. Pause is when I change the activity, and also is the needing to recharge. So me, who I do a lot of emotional and mental work, for me, doing sports is a pause. Going to the field and doing some garden work is a pause. But for my friends who are farmers, is sitting in the corner and reading a book, or going out and seeing some people. Yeah, I stop working. It's like I don't want to see anybody anymore. I need to be alone, because I work with people all the time. So what is our rhythm? What is our pulse? What pauses do we need? What changes of activity do we need? It's really important also to keep this in mind when we do social designs. And then this was a bit some reflections inspired in Luby. And now we get to other reflections about people. People, when you look at them, they seem all yes, like this. But when we look at the inner landscapes of everybody's inner landscape is different. And they are very different. Yes, some darker, some not, some more colors. Everybody's different. And what you say outside, it's like the typical iceberg. Yes, you see the tip of the iceberg. You don't know what's happening inside of them. I had so many things like, I have this woman, I'm still collaborating with her. She didn't do the work for a while and she didn't appear. And I didn't know what was happening. And I just waited. And one day she told me, yeah, I just went to the police and I just have denounced my partner for mistreatment. I'm sorry, now everything is changing. I'm getting out. And now she's really doing great work. You don't know what's happening in the other's life. And to somebody you wouldn't expect it from. So she was in a really, really bad relationship. And you don't know it. And so if you don't see the behavior you want to see, wait and listen, because you don't know what's inside and why it is happening. And within people, we have like 3 ideas, which is the body, the sensations, and the ideas, 3 layers. Yes, the body is a physical shape, the metabolism, the cells, the organs, and all this. If this is not healthy, we are not healthy. And this it influences our emotions and how we are. Yes. When I'm hungry, I'm insupportable. Yeah, and other people, they change. It's really important. And if you have a sickness, if you're in pain, you're difficult to handle. People change the character. The people who say the character changed when they stop eating meat. Yeah, it's really sometimes just something physical. And then there are the sensations, the feelings, the emotions, the impressions, the needs, the desires, everything, all these things that are swirling within us. And it's not the same, just talking about feelings and emotions. It's not necessarily the same. The feeling is often something like something deeply rooted. I have a feeling of love or respect for this. Emotion is what I feel now. I'm feeling angry because you look bad at me, or because I got up in the morning bad, or I'm happy now because I just got a good news. It's not the same. Yeah, so deep-rooted feelings and there are superficial emotions. It's just to keep a bit of tracking on this. And then we have the ideas in mental plane. We have a worldview, we have a self-image, we have expectation, we have beliefs, we have things we tell ourselves all the time. And there may be some really, really deep-rooted ideas that are not very healthy and useful. And there may be some really powerful ones. So working with people, everybody is a universe. And everybody is so different. And this is also why it's sometimes when we combine and when some team constellation works with some people and they don't work with others, because everybody is so different. Yes, we're not just the type of person. You bring the right types of person together, like the right plants in a guild, and it's not that simple. You have to figure it out all the time anew. And then there's these other pieces, which are institutions. When I talk about institutions from the social science point of view, it's any social structure that is independent of the people enacting it. And institutions usually have 3 pieces. I have like 2 shown up here, and third I didn't find images. So you have the material piece. You have the hall, yes, where you do the judges, where they work. I'm sorry, I'm thinking between English, Spanish, German. You have the churches, you have the bars, you have the shops, material places, physical things. Like also like the different uniforms. Then you have the people who perform certain roles, the judge, the people who is judged, the policeman, the writer, the secretary. They have roles, and they have roles, and they have in the church you have your roles. You have the waiter, the cook. These are roles, and then you have rituals, the acts they do ritually. Yes, like the mass or lunchtime, or it's a ritual. Yes, how they work. It's all, and these are fixed institutions, and you can map that. You can look at this, and when you build a project, you want to build an institution that is independent of you. So it's really interesting to learn how to think about this. And now it's a time to get out of this presentation, and I take a look at the time, and I will share another one, which is this. This is something I've been playing on. I told you I'm working on this integrated design framework. I will tell you in a little bit more about it. But one of the things I've worked a lot with is the idea of head, hands, hearts. As you've seen, it's all been 3 pieces, and it's sometimes 3, sometimes 4. Yes, and you get into the base idea of it. It's head, hands, hearts, and I don't know. It's Vandana Shiva, I think, who uses it, but there are a lot of other people who use it, which is here: head, hands, head, heart, like these 3 pieces. which also is body, mind, and spirit, which is also, this is not from Spanish, from doing and two ways of being. In Spanish, it's ser and estar. Ser being what we are, and is being, estar being what we are doing at this moment. Yes, you can say you are beautiful always, or you just look beautiful today. This would be the difference between these two. And if we look at this triangle, you find this triangle is often with a fourth piece everywhere. Yeah, whereas here's the biology one. So in biology, when we talk about life, we have this three pieces: the cognition, which is perception of reality, you have the surrounding, the ecosystem, and you have they call it the autopoietic unit, is one of the ways of calling it now, which is the living unit, which can be a cell, or it can be an animal or a human being. And they're always in, and the emergent thing about this is life. Yes, between, in dialogue of the three. Then you have yes, and then you have, like, in society, a lot of things about this. You have in abstract, you can say it's the matter, what something is built of. It's a process, something works in the form. And then in the human society, what they put into this is meaning. Yes, so if we understand the meaning is a fourth dimension. Without the one, the other three don't make any sense. And then you can see this in all the levels. You have it in politics, which is politics, philosophy, ethics, and the paradigm behind the three of them. You have it in institutions, I gave it before: roles, rituals, and objects, and then the narrative. Then you have in institutions also, you have the structural piece, the personal piece, the dialogue piece, which is the structure I showed you in the beginning, which brings organizational culture. It's something. Then in society and the culture, you have the institutions, you have the ambiente, the more unstructured places, and then there's the individuals who form all of this. And the people, in one person, you have the will, you have the memory, you have the understanding, and the identity. So it's always playing around. I really found this threefold idea really, really useful. Also, just to mention it for a moment, when you go into cultural emergence works in these three too: nourish and empower, move and invigorate, and challenge and awaken. And I asked Luby, and she said, yes, it's the same. Challenge and awaken is mind, nourish and empower is heart, and move and invigorate is hands. So she put it in there too. And then we have also deformations in this. And this is something we see when we get back to the mistakes a lot. So we have people who are too much in the mind, and they're just intellectuals that don't talk, activists that do without thinking, and idealists that feel without thinking and doing. So it's really interesting, a really powerful thing, just to play always with those three levels in social designs, also in other designs, yes? And you can find a lot of things about this. As I said, this is part of the design. I will show you some now. Now we get into some toolbox. Yes, we've thought about reflection, things to keep in mind. The first one I want to say is Luby McNamara's work, which is really, really powerful work. As I said, I did 4 trainings with her last year, and she has those 3 phases. Now she has the card deck. I also have it here at hand now because I use it a lot. I love it. She has a design web as one of we saw some of the anchor points, some comments on some of the anchor points, but it's really, really powerful. And if you want to understand this, then it's or you do courses with her, or you take the book Cultural Emergence. She has a People in Permaculture book where she brings in a lot of other people's work, and in Cultural Emergence, it is her work and systematic toolkit organized in the 3 phases. Yes, so this is it's like the permaculture social kit that is out there and is working, and it's a powerful tool. It's a great tool, and I really recommend taking a look at it. And on the other piece, there's things I'm playing around with my design framework now, which is like this. It's like, ooh, what the fuck is this? Yes, I'm calling this a diamond. Is where I just put everything together. So we have the heart, the head, and the hands. Sorry for the Spanish, it escaped me when I brought these graphics in. And then these are the different types of design. And then we have different axes, like we have the feet on the ground, the now, and then we have the vision up there, and then we have different ways of working. We'll explain them a bit, yes, we have the value system and we have the purpose and this is trying to bring it all together in different designs and a framework where we say, now, what are we designing? Yes, because we need, when we want our project to work, we need our feet on the ground. We need to observe them now very clearly, and we need to know where we want to go. When I talk about the vision, there's something I brought in, which is really important. There's just like 2 levels here. There's one is a vision of our house, of our project. How do we want it? The one is a landscape, the society we want to create. If we have a vision of a different society, of a good society, of a society like a society where we practice healthcare, people can fair share. We can go way farther into this. But if we have this bigger vision, this gives meaning to a project. And then we have the purpose, which is the direction, what we actively do. And we have the values, which give our way of being. So the principles are in the heart piece, because the principles help really to integrate our way of being. And they bring us ritualistic practices we do just to get this way, the spring festival or winter equinox, it doesn't have to be classic rituals, or the monthly Monday morning meeting. Yeah. And then the actions is what we do just to build the projects. So what we do actively, and this is more passive. And the star, the mind is the structures we build. So they all have different designs. They're different design pathways. And what I'm doing now, one is just, this is, I call it the compass. So we just put the main direction, the main framework, and where are we now and where do we want to go and how do we want to go there? And if we have this clear as a group, if we have clarity on this, this is going to be the criteria for any other decision. And this prevents so many conflicts. I've seen, for example, one of the groups I worked with is they had a great vision of the year of the islands for themselves. And then we started looking at the vision for the project, and some said a network and others said a professional team. And I looked at them and this is the conflict. All the conflict and tension you have is because some are trying to build a network and some are trying to build a team. And this is totally different strategies. You're working for a different purpose, for different strategies. So you can work in the same organization, but you have to place it right. If not, it's going to be in conflict. This is one where I really do believe everybody needs to do a good work on this. You need to have clear goals so your design makes sense. And then there are different ways of designing. There's a way of designing the way of being, yes. So how to design principles. There's a way of designing just action where a lot of Luby's, for example, here I usually use a design web. Here I usually use classical permaculture processes. I really like them better because they're more mapping. Yes. So here we want to build structures. We need a lot of maps. The design web is not the best to use maps. Here we use a different process. I didn't bring in from permaculture. I brought in from coaching. But it's really interesting. And when you design all these different pathways, you can design one, then you design the other, then you design together, and together something new emerges, something really coherent, because it's all responding to the same vision and values. And then other things I did is this one, for example. I will give you later a link for this one, because when we do social designs, they told me in the diploma, you always need a base map. Yeah. How do you do a base map for a social project? So we invented this. So this is different spaces my project works in, and what virtual spaces I'm in, on what physical spaces, and what time frames I work, especially when you work markets or classes, the time frame may be very limited or not. What social structures am I working with? What people are in my project? And then this is like zoning. So the ones who are in the center of the project, the ones who are farther out, and the ones are, yes, like some 1, 2, 3, 4 of the project. And then there are some which cultural spaces and which thematic spaces we're working in. So you really define, before you start observing, you really define what are you going to observe, because it's really clear when you do a land-based design, then you have this border of your piece of land, and you observe your piece of land and what's influencing outside. But when you do a social design, you don't know this. So this is like kind of drawing this border and looking, what am I going to observe? Another one that came out, was like thinking also for social designs, but it may also work for others. When we look at the social design processes, Luby was a design web, really kept it in mind. And it's like, yeah, you work with an emergence, you can't foresee, you can't plan, things may change this observe, analyze, design, implement structure doesn't work. So how do we do this? How can we design for a social in an emergent structure? Because we start observing, then something happens, something changes, something. We work on all the phases all at the same time. We flow through the process. The design web was really open to this. Yes, the circle we had before. And I said, yes, this is really good. And there are really good points in there. But it's really difficult. Where do I put my maps in? I don't know where to put the maps into the design web. So I did an application which combines both processes to handle it differently. So you have here the observe phase where you put maps in. You have the analysis phase, you have the design phase, and you have the implementation phase. And then you have some what's in some points of Luby. Oh no, it's not the newest one. The newest one has another one. Like here was the appreciation and the rhythm and limits and necessities and things put in. The urgent is here. Sorry, it was not the last one. So just to bring also those points what Luby has into it, and then it has the thing that it has to respond to a clear vision and a clear project and a territory. So it's a design process. It's a very on the design process, but thought for social structures and working with social maps. You're working on all the 4 phases at the same time. So now I have this in this phase, this in this phase, this in this phase, this in this phase. Something new emerges, then oh, no observation, new analysis, new design, and you change. You can work on all of it at the same time. You're looking at it differently. And then just to keep some other tools, there's so many tools there. I haven't named Byron Diary, the River of Life, journaling, elements and functions, zone sectors, what, the 8 forms of capital. There are a lot of more tools. I have here linked a toolkit in Spanish, which is in Spanish, but it's very visual, so you might understand some, and most of the words are this. And there are a lot of methods you can use. There's the art of hosting, there's sociocracy, there's facilitation, there's transition towns, and you can learn a lot of this. Permaculture takes all the time from other people, other methods, yes? So taking out of this, you find a lot of more information than what I put in there. I hope this was useful, and thank you very much.
Oh, amazing. That was like research, social permaculture research. So I'm very looking forward to your diploma presentation. The question would be my first one: is it in Spanish?
Yes.
No.
I'm doing now the halfway. I'm doing the halfway presentation next month in Spanish.
Okay. Cool. So yes, thank you very much.
So good. Questions, reflections, feedback?
Well, if I can say, I would like to say thank you very much. That was very, very interesting. It was very compact. I got a lot, and I noticed that like halfway through, I was like, okay, I need to watch this again so that I get everything I need to watch again. It's so much information. You've done an amazing job in, I think, in really, you know, developing it everything further. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm putting a lot of thought in at the moment. I'm happy it's helpful, and it's like, yes, and I thought, okay, this is permaculture, people, so I just put everything in.
Yes, no, it was amazing. I especially like the matrix. Now that was still when my head wasn't completely full. Now I understood the matrix, I think, at first try, and it was like really it was very helpful, and I was just I feel very happy that you was sometimes it's so nice to you have sometimes like these very thoughts that you think they might be too edgy, but then someone else says these observations and thoughts also, and then you feel like, okay, maybe I wasn't completely wrong.
Thank you. No, it's like it really came out from because I was using different methods and I needed to bring them together somehow, because I just was like, now I do this piece, this is useful and this is useful. How do I integrate them? How do I bring them together? Yes. And so this is why the matrix came up. and it came up from with the Hans Hartz when I did social theater. My social theater teacher is everything is based on the structure. So I was just like, it's a structure. I always have it's see, judge, act, body, mind, and spirit, philosophy, political, and then it just came together when I brought the design and this and this, and yeah, it makes sense. And I do have it all. It's like sub in sub in sub. So if we take vision, purpose, and values, it's again, the vision is the mind, the values is the heart, and the purpose is the hands. So we get the back there. It's boxes and boxes and boxes, nested systems all the time. Yes? Yes, there's a question in the chat. I will just answer to this. Yes. Yes, it was Vandana Shiva, I think she's called. I haven't really gone into her work. Yes, it was mentioned to me that Arlene from Merbecker, who's going to do the talk about water here, she's I'm learning from her how to do the PDC courses, and she brought the hands, hearts, hat, and she said Vandana Shiva does it. It doesn't for me, but it was like, oh, it's the same. So I just integrated. Yes, trying to integrate things. Something more.
I really liked how you combined the traditional permaculture design system with Luby's anchor points. So this is interesting thinking, and I probably have to try it out to see how it goes. But I guess there's something to it. I have like while I kind of like the traditional process, I always find that they don't really, it's not reality what they show. They it's like they should be like these stages, but it never plays out in reality like it should be. So I think this is great. I have to try it out.
Yeah, I will bring it. I will update it. I will send you the link to the Kumu. I don't know if you know the Kumu.
No, I don't.
Great platform, free. Yes, if to get back to the other day, it's yes, it's. I'm not so sure if it's open source, but it looks quite ethic, and it's good for designing social mapping. Great platform, and I have something there with the different maps, and I will send you the link and the updated butterfly, because I took a version from the web because I'm not at home, and in the updated version there's the pause not, but the appreciation and everything.
Okay.
And it's also something when you look at the butterfly, this is something I did. Oh no, I closed. Yeah, I closed it. Give me a second. I put some of the pieces in the middle, which is something which was some thinking about too. Yeah, it's getting up there. I have to try it out. I tried it out a bit, and it worked quite well. And then because of personal reasons, I had to leave the design, but because something emerged and it didn't make sense anymore. But I worked with it already, and it works. And I did it in Kumu. I have it all set up in Kumu. So I put needs, limits, principles, and resources in the middle. It's not observant and it's not analysis. Because this has always been like a dialogue point. Is just making a list of needs and limits and resources. Observation, or is it analysis? And it's neither nor. So I put it here in the middle.
Yeah, I think it's right placed there. Yeah,
because it's in the middle. For example, needs, it's already here. Is integration in Luby. Usually when you look at the design web and how they teach you about the design web, needs is the integration anchor point. It talks you to working on needs mostly. So it's in here. And as I said, in the newest version, I have more here, and in the middle, there's the emergent here, emergence. So yeah. Good, anything else? Yes, somebody says thank you. And I just wanted to say I had some language problem in between. I'm not sure if it was very obvious. As I usually speak Spanish, it was like, how is this called in English?
Yeah.
I will send the link to Dominic so he can send it with a mail. Okay.
Yes, exactly. We'll go to, you will receive it next week with next invite.
Yes.
So that actually brings me to next week. So next week is Bernhard Gruber, and next week will be a traditional, very traditional thing. It's food forest, one of the very old food forests that we have in Europe. It's 30 years old in the Austrian, it's Alps. Yes. So looking forward to that as well. So
totally different, but
yes,
very
totally
inspiring. Yes.